Okay. This is my talk from toy to casual hit, from prototype to post launch. Just a heads up, if anyone wants to ask any questions while the talk is going, it's totally fine. It'll give me something actually interesting to say without just following through whatever's on screen. All right, let's go. All right, next. Who am I? My name's Salman. I love to prototype. I have too many projects that people want from me, and I've also had people trying to offer me money to actually work on something instead of me. If I'm just gonna sit there, leave it hanging in my uh, graveyard of games and prototypes. So yeah. What have I done? What have I released on? I've made games for the web. I've released on called Maths, Pokey, some others I can't think of other than itch.io. Mobile, I've launched on the App Store and Google Play, even been featured on the Google Play Store. I've also had a humble monthly release, and also helped inspire a game that's done super well. That's not attributed to me because I didn't do the hard work on that. Yeah. Next. Yeah, awards. Humble. This is how I got the Humble Award was the Game Developers of Color Expo, and also won the BAT, or the first place for my skateboard game, which I'll be talking about in the next slide. Also, so what do I mean by toy? What was it? What I mean by is whenever you pick up a toy, it feels natural. You know how to play with it, or at least how to experiment with it. You can put it into different scenarios where you could just imagine a whole story just with your mind and just using what's in front of you. And also, usually they're pretty accessible, unless they're a whole transformer and you have to use voice activation to make it transform or not or whatever. And yeah. So, so I thought the best way to example like the toy-ish method would be trying to go through store development of like of one of my games, and one of them is Taptrix. Oh my god, is the screen acting up for anyone, or is it just me? All right, phew. So what is Taptrix? So originally it came from trying to make one of my prototypes, which was a failed prototype that was like a little a physics ball that would move around. It was all a lie that it looked like it was skateboarding. It was just a ball the whole time. And I thought, what about why don't I translate that into something? And then I thought I have only played a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game for like 5 minutes, and out of frustration of the control, I just dropped it. And I thought, how could I translate what I think is the how Tony Hawk's Pro Skater plays into like a single button? I tried that as a little fun exercise, and also trying to make that into like a single button game. And somehow it was interesting enough that I thought, okay, let's keep going. Didn't drop it, and the the next thing that I did was trying to find like a little quick palette that I could use, or if I was bad at, if you're bad at like picking up a random color palette, just using a pre-made one. Couldn't be bothered with animating, so I did a bunch of squash and stretch and rotating, like the grinding animation on the skateboard characters is just sine waves on the applied on the angle of the character, and it looked like it was animated, even though it's just a jump animation, just looping. And also with art, I wasn't that comfortable. I mean, I didn't think I was good enough to quickly make like really good art assets. So my best solution was playing with color and shape. And as you can see on like the image here, you can see the same square rectangle just stretched around, and with the colors changed. No, like the actual assets were changed, just the colors. And then whoops. And then to hide the fact it was all like simple, it was a lot of working with cameras, like zooms, tilts, some movements here and there with it, and doing some slow motion here and there where it doesn't break up the flow with the squash and stretch, etc. Sounds, of course, and some vibrations, which I'm not sure is still in the game or not, but yeah. Ooh. So how did the Jam game go? It got nearly a million people playing it within a week on release on HIL. There were numerous comments asking for a mobile version, and I think there was even yeah, and then I think there was like a few people that made it sound like a threat, like you better release a mobile. Uh, hmm It beats like getting like a random comment saying something looks like dick and balls on screen. So that's good. Yeah, I think I got featured on Itch for a bit. Even I'm not sure why, but yeah, I think it's because I made like a little trailer like 8 hours after I released the game after I got some sleep. You can even see that I accidentally recorded the Mac like little dashboard thing at the bottom there. You can see the recordings. So yeah. So what went right? I would say it was probably what went right was probably how I rewarded players and how they progressed. They didn't have to like collect all the collectibles, like for they didn't have to they didn't have to be exactly what was it precise with their jumps. I actually made it so that they could. There's only like 8 directions which they could technically jump, and then there was a bug with the rings where the players originally you have to like jump through it, not stand on it. But there was a bug where if you just bump your head or whatever on the top or bottom, it would just trigger like, oh, you went through it, you had done it and stuff. And I just no one saw it as a bug or complained about it. They were just happy it worked, so I just kept it in. I ended up playtesting with my little brother while thanks to a feature in Construct where you could do remote preview, so you could just send a link and someone could open it in any browser. And he played it on the phone, and I was just watching him like he was spinning out of control, going outside of the level bounds and everything. And the smile on his face, I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't get tell him like, oh, you're playing it wrong. You're supposed to collect all the collectibles and then go to the exit. And he didn't care. He just like, I'm skateboarding, but get away from me. Let me play. And I just kept it in, and it had a little knock-on effect where I was able to uh, make the game work for like a casual player, someone who didn't want to be all like, oh, I'm gonna do everything, get every little bit in the level. Yeah, the completionist, and then also the casual side, which is just like I just want to get through this. And yeah, I was and then with the post jam version, which I released with Pokey, I think within one of the days of release, it ended up getting like 250,000 people playing it. And yeah, I noticed some things that went wrong with it. So uh, people didn't come back as much as I expected. They would average around like playing 3 minutes. And I think about half the like there's a ad in the game where if you play for 2 minutes straight, there's like a little an ad that shows up, 15 30-second ad, and people didn't get to as much, like half the players did. And that's a problem. Either they saw it and then just exited the game, which means I didn't have enough of a hook, and also it was probably frustrating for them to play. And I got a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is too hard. This and that." There was like pitfalls at the end of levels. Like I didn't make sure there was like a little safety or like a high margin of error. So there wasn't like a safety net in some shape, in some way, and had to be. And it was also a pain to be perfectionist going through it, and I didn't like design the levels through writing. It turned into more of a puzzle than an actual game about skateboarding and just spinning around and doing whatever you liked. And in a sense, that made it. I ended up forgetting to apply the toy effect to the game, which was present in like the first Jam version, even though it wasn't um, easy. It had enough content to like skate around in those levels to do whatever you wanted. So, but tried to fix that. Oh, and then and after like the Jam version, I also ended up pitching it on the beginning pitch, and the game got yay. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay. So there were some funny, interesting comments. These were some of the ones that could be translated. I do not know what the Poland's reviewer meant by "to just hit." Oh, yeah, to just hit. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think there was some that just like swore it said some nasty words. Some even there was one about abortion for some reason, and yeah. It was weird. Also, sugar daddy as well. Mention a sugar daddy, and the Brazilian ones tend to like mention Among Us or whatever meme was going around. So I know it's just a lot of kids, but it's interesting. So as some of you have heard, I've recently was part of another game that was just released recently called Swingo, and which came originally from like a I had a deal with Pokey, which for a game called Hands on Pete, and as I revisited the game, I it was originally a platformer, and you could control the direction you went, left and right, and then you had mouse controls and controller kind of support where you controls like the hand as well with one of the sticks or the mouse. It had some nice reception, but when I revisited making the game, it was like a whole different story. So it didn't feel good off the bat. If you can probably tell from the GIF or video in the slide, it was too overly engineered that I kind of lost like the fun aspect. Usually, if you want to get something that has like that fun toy whatever experience to it, aspect to it, it's good to try to limit yourself to trying to make the core loop sorts within 1 to 3 days, and if it takes longer than that, that's usually a bad sign, which happened with this project. I spent like a week, then 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, which and to the point where I felt so demotivated, thinking, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do?" And then over engineering it with thinking like, "Oh, it's hard to get the grapple points. Why don't I add like a little safety measure to it?" That didn't do anything. It just made it more complex where it doesn't need to be, and it was indeed something wrong with it. I chased like the complexity too early, like, oh, how am I gonna do the levels with this and that, and yeah, very narrow point vision at that point. So what happened? So I ended up speaking with a couple of friends who later I collaborated with, Andre and Loic, and uh, Andre got his juice magic into the game, and also tried to follow like a little he made like a little prototype version of Loic's like quick 30 minutes uh what's the word, reformatting of the design of the controls, and it felt so good and also so simple. I wanted to smash my head into a wall, thinking, why didn't I just make the movement all around the bloody hands? That's the hands were in the title of the game. What the hell? And it's so exciting that ended up we ended up going further with the game, and here's are some of Loic's sketches. He did even more, but I don't know how much I could fit into the presentation before it went into, yeah. So I think that he drew these in the Notes app, which I found out was like really good. Like I kept trying to do similar thing in Procreate with the Apple Pen, and it was even worse experience. So how did it do? So I ended up getting 4 million players within 3 weeks. It got like 5 million players playing it within a month. So from like the December 7th to January 10th ish, and majority of the players that played it on web ended up playing it on mobile and desktop for the most part. So I think it was I think 60% mostly desktop, and then 40% like mobile players, and then tablets were like even less, but they're averaging the same. No, sadly, no. At least no, the Pokey dashboard. We just see like how many people played it, how many like per player was an ad watched. So and we were able to get at least for every one player was able to watch an ad at least, and that made sure that there was a healthy amount of income that came from the game. And we also and with the some of the inspiration from like Neon White, it ended up creating like a little meta aspect to the game where you could go back to the level. You had an incentive to go back and make your times shorter and shorter. But unlike Neon White, I think it was a good idea that the team chose, Andre and Loic chose to make sure that it wasn't, uh, how should I say, uh, it was all celebrated equally, whether you did it correctly, or faster or slow. In the end, you just get like a celebration where you're munching on the little fruit, and it. We experimented with the controls a bunch as well, but we have ended up just eventually just sticking to, oh, you click here, he jumps to there with some little hand holding to like approximate closest object. And it was exciting when we saw that we were able to get at least players playing up to like 6 minutes, above 6 minutes. Like the standard, like the gold standard, was just trying to get at least 5 minutes or above. End up surpassing it, going to like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and it was interesting seeing like players who beat all the levels, trying to get down their time, and seeing them take it from like, oh, 30 15 minutes to complete all the levels to, oh, I got it down to 7 minutes, and then 5 minutes. Like it's uh, crazy. I think the game ended up like getting into those players who were like hardcore as well, and the casual side pretty well, without meaning to, but also meaning to as well at the same time. And most of the development, I would also have to be clear, most of the development was handled by Loic and Andre, and the decisions that they made were what made the game explode as much as it did. And so what went right? Oh, maybe I got ahead of myself. We went strict with the progress. Play actions were always celebrated, and you could easily revisit some levels. There's people who have like levels that are their, what was it, comfort level. Like they want to go back to it again and again because they know they're so good at it. They've done it so many times, and yeah, that helped. And we also think with the levels, they were all. If you could beat it quickly enough, they could be close to 10 seconds each, or between 5 to 15 seconds long, and they worked pretty well. And completion times added like another layer of um, what was it, replayability to the game. And what went right as well is also collaboration, like all of this art, the juice, the character design, the levels, all of this. I don't think would have happened if, and the design wouldn't have happened without collaborating with other people. And I'm frankly grateful for that. It's better than being in a dark room, sitting there and going, what am I going to do next? Going through a checklist, feeling uninspired. Uh, but instead of going through that, it's like, oh, look at the Git repo, someone's added something. And then that feeling of excitement, like, oh, let me see what it is. And then being motivated as hell from that. Uh, if I could have that every day, I would. And oh, and some of the comments were like really fun to see. Though I think there was a comment where someone wrote like a kind of a story about what happened with one of the skins in the game. There's technically no story in the game, but player kids were like coming up with their own narratives, which was so fun to see. Like there's some that said, "Oh, it's like Spider-Man," like which made sense. Um, but that wasn't like the aim at first, but then it made sense, the Spider-Man comparison. It's good to have people comparing your game to the best superhero. Yeah, I said it. Best superhero ever. Every other hero sucks. uh, so yeah, the simple mechanic and the mind-breaking levels makes it entertaining. I find that comment interesting. Like the mechanics was simple, but it wasn't simple to get to that point. And the way they mentioned the mind-breaking levels makes it entertaining. I don't think we even made the levels like in a puzzle aspect. It was just more like what's the what's the word for like an action scene that's supposed to be like a spectacle. Yeah, basically some spectacle in the level. Yeah, and that keeps makes it memorable enough to players so you could just reuse that little pattern. So yeah, finished. Here are some of my contacts. If anyone wants to say anything, and if there's any questions, you can ask now. Or if you don't, it's okay. Mhm. Is there any questions? I'm not sure actually. I think either impressions or something together. I'm not sure. Views. Yeah. 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 Then that makes sense. Yeah. Still. Still bragworthy. Yeah. Alright. Alright. And that should be the end of my talk. Hey. Hey, how the hell do I control this? Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording in three, two, one.